Okay, here's what they look like. What?
Well, I think blowing my hair. Move that. Angle it just a little bit. Not that much.
Well, let's see what's better lighting.
Let's see what.
So is this better
Well,
lighting?
let's get that little table. Bring it over.
Why don't we sit right here? Why don't we pull this over?
Oh yeah, that's good.
Okay, and sit in the chairs.
Really? Well, then how do I push the buttons?
You can't. Why don't we sit like? Let's just see what lighting is best. That lighting is. Oh, it looks really awful. Yeah, Roberta's on. Okay, here's where you were. Make this.
Look at those glasses.
Oh my God!
Hi, cutie.
Hi, hold on 1 second. Let me turn this. I have something else, so I don't know what's going on. Hold on. Okay. Hi.
Hi.
Hi guys. I'm a little early. I didn't expect you.
Here we are. We didn't expect
I know.
you.
You are in the RP, right?
Where are you?
I live in Benicia now.
Benicia. Oh.
Benicia. Oh,
Benicia.
we know
Yeah, it's like outside Vallejo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
know Benicia. Sure.
Yeah.
We're stuck in
This is
Lake.
not, I don't like this.
You don't like that?
No.
Are you
It's
sure?
so lopsided.
Okay, well then let me do it something else.
Well, how about this that table? The thing, that thing?
Oh yeah. Okay, hold him.
Sorry, Roberto. We're getting set up. How do we sound?
Oh.
Are we sound and look okay?
Yeah, you looked okay. The sound is a little low, the volume. I mean, I have my volume turned all the way up.
Oh, so we gotta.
Okay.
If you can maybe make it a little bit louder, if possible, or
We will. Hang on. So select the microphone.
Built-in
Same
microphone.
as I know, but we have to go to audio settings. Then.
Look at you. It's all the way up at volume.
Nope. It's-
Gotcha.
Okay, so make that a little bit louder.
How do you do it?
Let's see if you can pull it over. Can you click on the?
Yeah, not getting there. Oh wait, there moved. Moved a teeny bit.
oh, it sounds good now. It sounds good.
Oh,
Sounds
it's better.
better.
Great.
It does. It does. Yeah. Well, I won't keep you for long. I just wanted to say hi.
Yeah, great to see you.
Great to see you too. Where are you guys? Where are you now?
We are in Lake Arthur, Alabama.
Louisiana.
Oh wow.
Louisiana.
Louisiana.
We were supposed to be in Alabama today, but our jacks didn't go up. So we're a little broken. Our RV is a little broken down.
Okay.
And we're a little hot because we don't have the AC on.
AC.
So it's like 90 here with no AC.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah, we're
All
a little parched.
A little parched, but like moisturized. You can feel the moisture. Well, that's great. Well, I'm so glad. I'm so happy. So this is your first time doing the FAI summit?
It is, yes.
No, we did it last year.
Oh, we did it last year.
You did last year, okay.
Yeah, and I did fitness as well last year. And Bruce you did a lecture?
I don't remember.
Yeah. You know, we've done so many of these Zoom conferences.
Oh, I know. It's like everything gets like that. That's great. Well, I love it. That's wonderful.
It's crazy.
Good. Well, I just wanted to say hi. It's great to see you guys. Thank you for doing this. And I will see you guys later, okay?
All right,
Okay,
Roberto.
perfect.
Take care. Talking with you. You okay?
Yeah. You okay?
Yep.
I'm a little sweaty.
That's all right.
It's all right. Oh, good. So now we are about 15 minutes early. That's cool.
Well, I can't be on because of my hair. Oops, sorry.
Let me take this. Let me fix the background a little bit.
Roll up the paper towels.
Well, why don't I take
Put the dishes away.
take paper towels off, dishes away, put my pants. You know how to share screen and all that good stuff?
Okay.
You want my help with that?
Well, that's what I just want to be on. I'd like to be on.
Yeah, but you have to share your screen. Share your screen.
So can I not do it full screen?
Yeah, you can. Here's what you do. You go like this. Post new screen sharing. Okay, so Cody's got to come on and make us co-host.
Okay.
Let me just see one more time. No.
All right, everyone. Welcome to the Functional Aging Summit. So glad that you guys are here to our session on how to live forever, or maybe at least to 120. Maybe 120 is it. Really glad that you guys are here. Definitely super excited for Bruce and Mindy to be here and presenting to you on some of the latest research related to longevity and how lifestyle impacts longevity for sure. Really excited about that. So thank you guys for being here. Just a few housekeeping things. If you want to ask a question, please put it into the chat box, and they can either get to that while we're going, or maybe we'll have some time at the end for some question and answer. We'll see how much you've packed into this presentation.
A lot.
A lot. Yeah, that's what I tend to do. I pack it in. So I really appreciate you guys being here. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you guys.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Cody. We're thrilled to be here. Are they looking at this? What are they
Yep.
First of all, I'm Bruce, and this is my wife, Mindy. We're currently in Louisiana. We live full-time in a fruit and vegetable RV. I'll talk about that. But my opening slide is a picture of Jean Calment, and Jean lived to be 122 years old. And this is 1 year, actually, I think it was 121, close to 122, oldest living person on the planet until she died. Next to her is a model a 3D model of something that's called a sirtuin, which I'm going to talk about. The sirtuins are one of the 3 molecular pathways to longevity. There are 3, and I'm just going to dive into the whole thing right now. And then how do we move
actually, what we did, because we want to live to be 124, that Bruce took this model of the sirtuin, and we actually have it as an art piece in our bedroom.
I did. We have
in our RV.
Yeah, not anymore. And we want to thank Dan and Cody for inviting us to present at the FAI Functional Aging Institute Summit. We're really looking forward to next year, where hopefully it'll be live, and we'll be able to do a live presentation. So thank you, guys. That's what we have dubbed our wellness wagon. It's what we're broadcasting from right now. It's a 32-foot RV. We have a 501c3 nonprofit called One Day to Wellness. And if you would like get a PDF copy of this presentation, just go to the link, save the screen, and go to the link, or reach out to us after this at info@onedaytowellness.org, and we will answer all your questions. The other thing I want to say, piece of housekeeping prior to getting started here, is that if you are interested in any of the research studies that I'm referencing, please reach out to me. I'll be happy to provide you with any and all references associated with this presentation.
And if you'd like to right now take a picture, just take your phone, take a picture of this screen. You'll know where to find us, and you'll also see the downloadable PDF, because that's kind of a hard.org/product/how not to get, you know. So, so it's better to take a picture.
You can go to our website and download it.
Yes.
That's what you can do. Mindy and I both wrote books. As I was diagnosed with prostate cancer about 10 years ago. I have advanced prostate cancer, which means it's spread beyond my prostate bed, and there's currently no cure for it. And I am just managing the disease primarily through my lifestyle. And I wrote a book about it and how I've used a plant-powered approach to dealing with prostate cancers as one of my major tools. And Mindy has also written a book called The Plant-Powered Penis.
Well, I always wanted to write a book. However, I didn't have a good subject matter that I thought was compelling enough to put on paper. Well, when Bruce was diagnosed with prostate cancer, all of the doctors, and I mean all of the doctors, set me aside and said, you know what, your husband of almost 40 years is probably not going to ever have an erection again. Well, I'm here to tell you that
Plants give you an erection.
The wrong in the wellness wagon, and I had to write a book about it. So,
but we encourage you to. I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. So it's really a book that's my personal perspective, but also all the research and the science about how you can live and thrive by eating plants for your sexual function as well as you age. And it's got recipes in it. It has a tip about the tip. It's got a lot of. It's very funny. So you can purchase both those books on our website or also Amazon.com.
And my book is a little bit more science-based, but the premise is lifestyle creates cancer. I am very confident that my lifestyle leading up to my diagnosis was the major contributor, primarily through diet, to developing prostate cancer. I also do a weekly blog that's usually packed with a lot of good information. So if you go to our website and you join our newsletter, you'll at least have access to the blog every week.
Yes, and I usually write on it as well. However, Bruce right now is going through hormone treatment, and he wants to
share with other people that are going through the same
through.
thing, because it is a new drug that I'm using. But that's not the subject matter of this presentation. Here it is. Fast-moving genetic research has uncovered an incredible amount of information about what makes the human body tick and why the human body stays together, some longer than others, to live a long and healthy life. And I want to say right from the get-go, we're not so focused on living a long life as we are how much time you have. You live a healthy life, but we have confirmed, science is confirming, if we can combine all the things that we're talking about today in one package, we're going to give ourselves the best odds to live into our hundreds, maybe even longer, and go there in a healthy, positive place so that you're healthy. Who wants to live to be 120 if you just can't even get out of your chair?
Carrying a pack of pills. And
there are these survival circuits that have been discovered, and we all have them. Every living life form has them, and they need to be activated in order to control chronic disease like diabetes, cancer, heart disease, all the diseases that kill us, and increase our lifespan. Three major longevity pathways have currently been defined by genetic researchers. I'm not a genetic researcher. I am a nutritionist, and I do study nutrition full time. But when I started diving into this biological genetic connection, I just could not get it. It's just blew me away, and I just had to figure out how to share it with other people. The three pathways, I'm going to identify them right now. One is called mTOR, sirtuins are another, and finally there's the AMPK pathway, and I will pronounce all of these, but basically they are all enzymes. They're all proteins that are developed into enzymes that get activated during a time of stress. Caloric restriction, fasting, high intensity interval training exercise, so specifically HIIT training, and a plant-based diet eliminating all the amino acids from the animal foods affect all three of these pathways in a very positive manner. There are certain molecules as well, or drugs, that can actually mimic caloric restriction. Caloric restriction hits all of these pathways very hard in a positive way. Caloric restriction is probably the most powerful tool we have to activate these longevity pathways that exist within all of us. But there are certain drugs also that can mimic, they're called CR mimetics. CR means caloric restriction. One is resveratrol, a very well-known antioxidant that was studied intensely in the 1990s and turned out for humans not to be all that powerful, but it is powerful, and it can affect specifically the AMP pathway. Metformin, the most common diabetic drug in the world, actually can mimic caloric restriction. Metformin limits the ability of your liver to deliver sugars or to converting sugars in your body, and it's been proven as a caloric restriction mimetic. And then there's another molecule called NMN, which I'm going to go into very specifically, that you can actually buy. It's neonicotide mononucleotide is the full name, and you can actually buy this in your, I guess you can probably buy it in a pharmacy. You can certainly order it online, and that's what we have done.
So our goal with this presentation in the next 50 minutes is to unpack the science first. So how you have an overview of what the science is, and then we're going to help you with the why, and then the how. So the why first is, why is all this happening? Why are we aging? And then how we can help ourselves and our clients and students, whoever we work with, really navigate this aging process and what we can do to age gracefully and hopefully live longer. So hang in there with us for the science piece, and then we're going to really be implementing how.
Mindy is always telling me enough science, let's just give them the how-to. But if you are not familiar with this type of genetic biology and the connection between the two, it takes a little bit of time to understand that. So I'm going to unpack the science as best I can in the beginning, and then we're going to talk to you about what we can all do in order to implement and activate these longevity pathways that are being studied right now.
Good, Bruce.
This is Dr. David Sinclair. He's an Australian biologist, and he is the lead professor of genetics and co-director of the Center for Biology of Aging at Harvard University. He is leading the charge into this research, and he's incredible. He's written a book called Lifespan. I was just talking to Cody about that. I would highly recommend, if you're interested in this research, and I don't see how you can't be, because you're trying to help people live a longer, healthier life, buy the book and read it. So that's the inspiration, and that's how we're going to get started. So let's talk about what is aging. If you had to identify aging, could you tell me what it is? I won't spend the time waiting to hear from you. However, guess what? When all the best biologists, geneticists, scientists in the world are asked, what is the cause, why do people die? And they go, well, because you get old. Nobody can give a specific biological, mechanical reason for why we age and why we die. And I'm going to tell you right now, Dr. David Sinclair, based on the research he's done, he says that aging is a disease The research is moving very rapidly, and soon we're going to attack aging just like we attack cancer, diabetes, and heart disease. But what is it? It's characterized by loss of physiological integrity, leading to impaired function and increased vulnerability and death. It's the primary risk factor, aging, for major human pathologies like we talked about: cancer, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, Alzheimer's disease. All humans, all of us, all living creatures have a survival circuit, multiple survival circuits, allowing to live long past the age of reproduction. And that's what nature cares about mostly. Get you to the age of reproduction so you can make more humans, keep moving the DNA. And after that happens, whatever happens to you, that's okay, because we've already copied the DNA and move on. What are the hallmarks of aging? Let's start at the top right, genomic instability. What does that mean? I'm going to dive in a little bit of how the epigenome actually reads DNA in our genetic code, and how reading that information and transcribing it can actually get lost. Telomere attrition, maybe some of you have heard of this. The telomeres are the little end caps that are on our chromosomes that degrade over time. Epigenetic alterations, as you're going to see, our DNA, it is packaged very tightly. And when it becomes unpackaged, that's when it can become transcribable, unspooled and read and damaged. Loss of proteostasis, which is homeostasis of protein. Deregulated nutrient sensing. This is when your body it can't sense the nutrients the way it used to when you were younger, so it's not optimizing the nutrient pathways, the nutrients that are coming into your body. The mitochondria and all of your cells begins to dysfunction. Cellular senescence is something I'm going to talk about. These are zombie cells, and I'll dive into that a little bit more. Stem cell exhaustion, all of our cells come from stem cells in our bone marrow, and that gets exhausted as we get old. And then altered cellular communication, and this is what Dr. David Sinclair is theorizing is the cause of aging. Altered cellular communication that leads into a cascade of genomic instability, telomere alteration, and all the other things that we just talked about. Let's talk about epigenetics. What is epigenetics? Epi means on top. Epigenetics is the top layer on genetics. You have to think of epigenetics like the master. If DNA's, let's say a grand piano was your DNA. Epigenetics is the person playing that piano. So they can play the keys soft. They can play the keys hard. They cannot play the keys. But
I like that.
But somebody can, if it's just a person operating it, although it has digital information, it's how that information is how it's transcribed and translated that starts to get lost.
Or it's how it's molded, right? You have a piece of clay, and what do you mold it into?
But
right?
a great example is right here. Epigenetics is the change of a gene cell expression without altering the DNA itself. So we all come with our DNA. It turns out we're learning now we can actually change the expression of our DNA based on our lifestyles. A perfect example is this. These are identical twins, non-smoking twin, smoking twin, and it becomes very obvious how they have the exact same DNA, but the lifestyles of the smoking twin is degrading her DNA and her ability to regenerate.
And the hairdresser.
Just, smoking versus non-smoking. That's a pretty straightforward example of epigenetics. So there's two types of biological information. DNA. What is DNA? Well, we know it's the 4 bases that connect in all different ways to create our genetic code. That's the DNA. That's not going to change. But the analog information is the epigenome, or that master piano player that is orchestrating everything and playing the piano and maybe missing a key or two as they get older. And what you see here, this is actually what's called a histone. And your DNA it's a protein, that blue thing, and your DNA is wrapped around it's wrapped around that histone, packaged very tightly. And that's how our DNA comes packaged. Now, moving further along, epigenetic information is stored as chromatin. And chromatin, here's the chromosome structure. So chromatin inside the cell, you can do that, great. Yeah. These round balls, these are the histones that I was talking about. And this yellow line, that's your DNA that is wrapped around these balls, okay? So this is all very tightly packaged DNA. It's not available for transcription. It's going to say the same. But you can see here, these histones, this is now the DNA is becoming unraveled. Think of almost like a Christmas tree tightly wrapped around with tinsel, that long thing of tinsel. When your DNA is going to get transcribed, it can't do it wrapped around that histone. It has to become unfurled, like you see here in this DNA helix, and then it becomes accessible by the epigenome, that master piano player. And then here you can see the telomeres or the tips of that structure. Oh, sorry, I can't see that. And then genomic, I like analogies for this because it can be a difficult science to understand. But think if the genome is your computer, right? It's the computer. It's running everything, right? DNA is the digital hardware in there. It's not going to change. It's the memory. It's the binary code that's within all of our DNA on those base chromosome levels. That's not going to change, but it's how it's read, how it's expressed, and how that information is transferred is what can happen. The epigenome is the analog software. Think of it like that. A newly divided cell about what it should be, because we all start with stem cells. They all look the same. How does a stem cell know it needs to become a liver or a pancreas or a lung? It's the epigenome that directs that. And the epigenetic information, as I mentioned, is stored in chromatin, which is this tightly round DNA spools around this protein ball called a histone. And it responds to environmental conditions. And this is the big deal. You can damage it without changing the underlying DNA structure through diet, radiation, chemical exposure, smoking, drinking, all of these things. Another analogy, and I love this, think of it like a scratched DVD. If you have a DVD, right? You see the one with the scratches here? We've all, back, if you're old enough to remember DVDs, well, you used to be able to take toothpaste. So the DVD is the actual data, right? But it gets all scratched up. So the laser, which is the analog portion that's reading that DVD, can't read the information. That's the epigenome going, what the heck? This information is hard to understand. I don't know how to process it. But turns out, according to the information theory of aging by Dr. David Sinclair of Harvard University, we can polish that DVD and make it new again. And
well, that's the good news.
That is the great news. Yeah. So we now know all living creatures, they become hardwired. Think of it like this, like a dimmer switch. Your DNA is all the hard wiring behind that wall. You can't see all those wires and circuit breakers. They're not changing, but you got a little dimmer switch, right? And that dimmer switch, that's the epigenome, making the genes express themselves or making the genes stay silent. So if you look here, these epigenetic, so we talked about these histones, these histone tails. Here are the genes right here. If you can see that little red portion. So that can't be read. But what happens? The DNA unspools, the histones unspool the DNA. And now this DNA is accessible and active and can be read. And this is the danger zone because these are when epigenetic factors through smoking, environmental, diet primarily, can end up creating problems in being able to read the information. So the histone modification is the binding of epigenetic factors to histone tails, and it alters the way the DNA is read. It's wrapped around tiny balls called protein, right? This is what Waddington's landscape is, a concept that this guy, it's another analogy basically, but like, how does a stem cell know I'm going to be a liver? It's the epigenome, right? Epigenetic codes genetically identical cells in our bodies to assume thousands of different modalities. I'm going to be a liver cell. I'm going to be a leg cell. I'm going to be a knee cell, right? Epigenetic information is what orchestrates the assembly of a human body of a newborn and helps it grow. And Waddington's landscape is the concept that you can see this little illustration here. See this ball at the top of this? Waddington's landscape is, okay, we start out here as a stem cell and it's going to roll down to this valley and it's going to end up in this valley. Maybe this valley is a liver. This valley is your pancreas. Oh, this valley is your left toe, right? So, but that once that genetic information goes from a stem cell into the type of cell it's supposed to be, it should stay there. But guess what? Epigenetic factors can change the way the DNA is expressed. Without epigenetic data, cells would quickly lose their identity until they fail because no cells would know what they were supposed to be because there's no grand pianist playing the piano. If you can polish a scratch DVD, you can make it work again. It's also theorized that a similar process can reverse aging. And this is the information theory of aging, according to Dr. David Sinclair. Histone acetylation, a little bit more science here, and then we're going to talk to you about what we can do. Histone acetylation is when an acetyl group is added to the histone tail, it will neutralize its charge. So this means the DNA can now be transcribed. So you see, this is all the tightly wound DNA. This is heterochromatin, meaning it's tightly wound. That's what heterochromatin means. You don't have to remember all this terminology. But as you can see, when the DNA now becomes unspooled, as we talk about, this is what's referred to as euchromatin, and this is DNA that can be tagged with acetyl or methyl groups. The accessible chromatin is called euchromatin. So acetylation, euchromatin, genes are accessible. That means they're open, and you can start either turning that information on or off on these genes down here, right? And you can turn them off positively and you can turn them on negatively. No acetylation, it's the heterochromatin stays very tight, bound together like that tight thing around a Christmas, the tinsel around a Christmas tree. DNA is not accessible. So the information theory of aging is the thought is just aging is due to the loss of epigenetic information over time. So if you think of this as just a traditional like source and receiver communication diagram, but if you use an analogy to think about your DNA, so the information source is the DNA, the transmitter, now we're getting into epigenetics, right? It's the signal, the received signal. You've got noise sources, just like you would an electrical circuit, but these noise sources could be diet, radiation, smoking, drinking, that type of thing. And then a receiver, right now, a receiver is also epigenetic because it has to read that information, but the destination is now back to digital, and that's what it is. And what Dr. David Sinclair has theorized, and most genetic biologists now agree with him, is that the theory of aging is caused by overworked genetic singlers. Sirtuins are one, it's one of those genetic singlers. And these sirtuins, these are enzymes that repair DNA, and they repair the chromatin, and they repair the telomeres that hold the chromosomes together to keep you functioning. But if it constantly gets damaged through epigenetic factors, through smoking, drinking, diet, that type of thing, lack of exercise, then the signaling can get damaged. And you have to think of it as the sirtuins, they're sort of like, I'll get back to that. There's roughly 250 different cell types in the human body. Without changing the genetic sequence of the DNA, the epigenomes activate and suppress genes through DNA methylation and histone modifications, as I mentioned earlier. Think of that genetic, the epigenome is a dimmer switch. The DNA is all the hardwire and everything behind the wall. The epigenome is that switch that's turning the DNA on and off to express itself. Genes are hard-coded at conception. The epigenome, however, is dynamic and changes throughout prenatal development and life. Several factors can change your epigenetic mechanisms, including chemicals. We've talked about this. Medications can have a big impact. Hormones, nutrition, development, and aging. Because they change how your genes function, they can trigger conditions like cancer, diabetes, mental health problems like Alzheimer's. Survival circuits within all of us, more than 24 million genes have been isolated and are called longevity genes, but we're going to look at just 3. Those longevity genes have demonstrated the ability to extend the average lifespan in lots of organisms, in yeast, in frogs, in rats, in chimpanzees. It hasn't been tested in humans yet, so let's be clear about that. It's very difficult to do a randomized controlled clinical trial and tell people you're going to smoke 100 cigarettes a day and you're not, and we're going to check and see how it affects your epigenome and your lifespan. These genes also keep you healthy and can be thought of as vitality genes. That's what I love to think of them as. Sirtuins, as I mentioned earlier, this is one of these enzymes, one of the pathways, are longevity genes that have been studied the most by Dr. David Sinclair at Harvard and his team. There are 7 of them, and they remove acetyl tags from histones, which change the packaging of the DNA, again, turning on and off the DNA as needed. Sirtuins have evolved, so you have to think of sirtuins as firefighters, right? They're all in one cell, they're keeping it all together, they're repairing the telomeres, they're repairing broken DNA. If it's just a single strand DNA break, they can repair that. But if you start getting tons of them because you're in a burn, you get burned in a fire, all those sirtuins are now leaving and going to the burn site, and they're leaving their home base, and a lot of them are not going to find their way back to repair the DNA that they were there to repair in the first place. So these sirtuins have evolved to require a molecule called nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, or NAD. And the loss, so think of the sirtuin as like the CFO of your company. What is the sirtuin? How do you get the CFO to come to work and work? You pay him. That is what NAD is, the payment for the sirtuin, who's the running around controlling everything inside your epigenome. The loss of NAD happens as we age, we lose NAD. And the resulting decline in sirtuins need the NAD in order to operate fully. It's one of the primary reasons theorized that our bodies develop disease as we get older. Sirtuins mute chronic overactive inflammation that drives chronic disease in our later years. Activating these sirtuins in animal studies and in yeast studies shows that it improves DNA repair, it boosts memory, and it ramps up your metabolism. Stacks, another term, is a sirtuin activating compound. To activate these sirtuins, so now the sirtuin is a precursor to the sirtuin. The stack is a precursor to the NAD. So the NAD now needs a sirtuin activating compound, and that's another molecule called NMN, in order to get the sirtuin charged and going. So think of it like this. Sirtuins are DNA disaster response enzymes inside of our body. And if there's a hurricane here in Louisiana, a lot of people would show up from disaster response teams. Those are the sirtuins coming in to help repair things. On the lake, we're going to stay, but they're not going back home. So those sirtuins, or the emergency response team, doesn't come back. So where's the baseball coach coming back to home, right? They're not there, and that's when the damage starts. So sirtuins are enzymes that control longevity. They remove these small little acetyl tags from those balls called histones, where your DNA is wrapped around it, and instructs them to go into a protection mode. And that's where the activation happens. If the body is overwhelmed with DNA repair, sirtuins can get lost and not return to normal function. Think about that. So if you're a heavy drinker and all your sirtuins are trying to repair all the DNA and all the chromosomes, everything that's going on inside your liver, it's not taking care of business in other places. Let's talk about this precursor, or this stack called NMN, that is needed by NAD in order to operate. So all cellular compounds are made in a way analogous to a factory assembly line, where each component is the precursor for the next one. So to produce more NAD, then one needs to procure more precursors such as NMN. NMN feeds in the production of NAD, which provides cells with the needed energy. It's the fuel for NAD. NMN is considered, sorry, it's hard to say that over and over. Neonicotide mononucleotide is considered a longevity pathway mimicking molecule. So this is like DNA mimetics. Here's one other problem with aging. Tumor, zombie cells. What happened? It's theorized we have zombie cells, and these are or senescent cells that they're damaged and they refuse to die. And we get more and more of them as we age. And the problem is these cells don't kill themselves. That's a process called apoptosis. A lot of cells, most cells in your body are programmed to kill themselves when they're done working. It's theorized that in order for us to make sure we don't get cancer, diabetes, heart disease, and all these other things that can potentially kill us during reproductive times, those zombie molecules they're very active, but then once we begin to age, these zombie molecules, they don't die, and these inflammatory cytokines and other chemicals that produce inflammation and create aging. So that's a zombie cell or a senescent cell. There's something called senescent mimetics, where they're looking at actually doing injections, almost like when we got, I'm losing my mind.
Like radiation or?
No, not like radiation, just like we got for COVID. You know,
the vaccine.
Inoculation. A vaccine. Yeah. We're working on vaccines to keep to kill zombie cell. This stuff is happening right now, and it's happening very fast. That's why I really encourage you to go and get on Dr. David Sinclair's website too. I'm going to show you where that is, and start learning about these things if you aren't already familiar. So we've got sirtuins. That's the first pathway. It's been studied the most. The second one is something called mTOR. And it's another survival gene that's highly regulated by what you eat and the nutrients that you consume. It was discovered on Easter Island on Rapa Nui, and there's a little sign about where they actually discovered it. And this is a big deal because mTOR signals cells in stress to hunker down and improve survival by activating DNA repair and digesting old proteins. mTOR also reduces inflammation caused by senescent zombie cells. mTOR is a master driver of cell growth. It senses the amount of amino acids available and results in protein creation. But if we create too much protein, we also have a problem. High mTOR activity is an analog of the phrase, live fast, die young, meaning I've got all the energy you need. I've so much energy coming in. I don't know what to do with it. I'm opening up all of my DNA. Times are good. We're open for business. Unspooled DNA. And now you've got risk of being overfed and exposing your DNA to damage through the epigenome. Too little mTOR activity is not beneficial and can disrupt the healing and insulin sensitivity and can cause cataracts. In mouse models, they've actually been able to disrupt the mTOR pathway and return sight to mice by working on the mTOR pathway. mTOR, we want to suppress in general. Too much mTOR, times are good, our DNA is open for business. We want to keep it in a state of hormesis, and I'll talk about that. The third pathway I'm going to discuss is AMP activated protein kinase. AMPK is another metabolic control enzyme. That's a 3D model of it at the bottom right there. It's evolved to respond to low energy levels and is highly conserved in mammals. AMPK activated protein, it's an enzyme that plays a role in cellular energy homeostasis, which means it keeps everything balanced within your cells. And just checking on my time there, by activating glucose and fatty acid uptake and oxidation. It can be upregulated via resveratrol. It can be upregulated with quercetin, which your body naturally produces, also caloric restriction, and apple cider vinegar. There you go. There's your first tip right there. Apple cider vinegar activates the AMPK pathway, which we do want to upregulate because it conserves energy.
Okay, apple cider vinegar, very good, but people cannot consume it because it's so nasty. So place it in your salad dressing. Use it in a salad dressing for lunch or dinner, and that's going to be really readily available to you.
Yeah, that's how we do it, salad dressing. And we used to do it on the salad bar back when you had those at Whole Foods, remember?
Yeah.
I want to talk about the stressors that activate the longevity genes. It's all about stress. Hormesis is the concept that whatever doesn't kill you will make you stronger. Turns out that's probably true. The graph I show, that's a health effect, is that you want to stress your body. You want to stress your body. Down low here is there's no stress, all is good. Yeah, right? So all is well. We can modify our DNA and make it function differently. Optimal is way up here, just enough stress. Too much stress, toxicity. It's not going to be good. So it's right here at the razor's edge of just enough calories, but not too much in order to stress your pathways. How do you do it? You do it with exercise. You can do it with intermittent fasting. You can do it with low protein diets. You can do it with exposure to hot and cold temperatures for a duration. Hormesis activates the entire longevity pathway to shut down, repair, recycle, and live a little longer. And this is a process called autophagy. This is what your body does. It's a cellular cleaning and recycling process that when you are in ketosis, your body will begin to do these processes.
So what type of exercise? We'll talk about that. Intermittent fasting, what does that look like? Low protein diet, you might have thought of high protein, but we'll talk about the other side of the coin. And then exposure to hot and cold temperatures, about how to expose yourself, but not too much.
I don't know how, I hate cold weather. So this is it, you guys. This is the money slide right here. And this may be difficult to swallow, but this is the truth. Dr. David Sinclair says if there is one piece of advice I can give to stay healthy longer and live a long and healthy life, eat less food.
The Okinawans in Japan, one of the longest lived people ever, they have a saying. What? Ichi hachi hu.
Why are you gonna say it?
Oh no,
Hari hachi bu.
Hari hachi bu. I was so close. All of a sudden I had like this brain fart because I'm old, right? But it's eat about till 80% full. And that's what David Sinclair means, either intermittent fasting or eating only to a point that you are not quite full yet.
Reducing calories, or CR is how I refer to it, caloric restriction, activates every single known survival gene in a positive way in every animal study. Now, human studies, they're just starting them, but the animal studies are very well documented and are pretty powerful research. Reducing calories improves longevity in all living tissues and animals tested, and we're talking about significant extension of life and health. Caloric restriction activates all cellular defenses. A long-term caloric restriction study in rhesus monkeys, here's the results. Maximum lifespan of any monkey was 40 years up until they did the study. 6 of the 20 monkeys in this research study reached 40 years old. So that's almost a third. It used to be, that was as high as you go.
Show the monkey's picture.
I'm going to. The human equivalent of 120. So the monkey that you see on the left is a monkey that's just eating an unrestricted diet like most of us in America, right? And that's what he looked like on the caloric restricted diet, exact same age monkey, 40 years old. Look how healthy he looks.
Wow.
Incredible. So that's compelling evidence, I think. Let's talk a little bit about intermittent fasting. Fasting is probably the single most powerful tool that we can all use to activate our longevity pathways. It engages all the survival circuitry. It activates longevity genes. It boosts cellular defenses. It activates autophagy, which is the cellular cleansing and recycling of old proteins, and slows aging. It lowers IGF-1. IGF-1, insulin-like growth hormone 1, is linked to all kinds of problems and is usually very high with people on the standard American diet because there's so much energy, there's so much IGF-1. It's like, look at all the insulin, let's dump insulin into our body. Lower levels of IGF-1 is associated with lower levels of chronic disease and a longer life. So we want to minimize our IGF-1, especially as we get older. Ketosis fully activates all survival networks. 3 days of fasting is required to eliminate all the stores of glucose and glycogen. I'm not here to talk to you about a fat and saturated fat filled diet to get into ketosis. I'm talking about stopping eating and just drinking water. So it fully activates all the survival networks. The 3 days of fasting is what is required. I fast for 5 days per week. And then these are the types of intermittent fasting that's listed. I just pulled it off the site. There's alternate day fasting. There's 5-2. There's eat, stop, eat. There's 16-8. Maybe you've heard about these. And we can go into those in more detail in a little while. I do what's called, I would call it periodic fasting, because I go at least 3 days when I fast in order to eliminate all the glucose from my body. What we eat is extremely important in aging and longevity. Meat contains all 9 of the essential amino acids, but it comes at a very high cost. I think most of us know now red meat is dangerous, but according to Dr. David Sinclair, meat is murder on the human body. High meat diets are strongly associated with increased cardiovascular disease, cancer, and an earlier death in general. Red meat contains high levels of carnitine, which gut bacteria convert into TMAO, which is a dangerous chemical that I can talk about. We good? TMAO is linked to inflammation and heart disease. I touched on the intermittent fasting slide, but you weren't.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. TMAO is linked to inflammation and heart disease. When plant protein is substituted for animal protein, all-cause mortality falls significantly. Bottom line is, if you can transition to eating a plant-based diet exclusively, you're going to eat less calories, and you're going to automatically eliminate these amino acids that we now know are dangerous in meat. And this is what happens with TMAO. Eggs, choline is in eggs and meat. It gets metabolized by your gut bacteria, it turns it into TMA. Your liver enzymes then convert it into trimethylene N oxide. And that we know promotes atherosclerosis and other inflammatory diseases. Limiting TOR is linked to a longer life as well. So that's the TMAO production and why we want to steer clear of animal foods if we can do it. TOR is not just affected by caloric restriction though. Limiting intake of amino acids is a great start. And how do you do it? The best way to do it is to transition to eating more plant-based foods that don't contain the same amount of dangerous amino acids that are in meat. Limiting TOR is as simple as eliminating meat and dairy from your diet. So if you can do that, that's one of the most fundamental, powerful steps you can take in order to increase your longevity and increase your health while you live a longer life. And the same holds true for some other amino acids, including arginine, leucine, isoleucine, and valine. They all activate mTOR. Now remember, we want to keep mTOR suppressed.
And if you want to know about how to limit our One Day to Wellness program, we're all about helping people transition to more of a whole food plant-based diet. Lean, we call it lean to the green wherever you are. So we definitely can help you in that respect.
That's what our program's all about.
Yep.
And we're not here to tell you what to do, but if you want to move in this direction based on the science, like we did, we're here to help you. Exercise, boom, Mindy's specialty. Mm-hmm. Exercise increases telomere length in all human studies. It has been studied in humans, and those are the little tips on our chromosomes where our DNA is packaged. We want to keep it packaged tightly, and so that's what we do there. The CDC study, ACD study, individuals who exercise at least 30 minutes 5 days a week have longer telomeres that appear 10 years younger.
Yeah, and meditation can also do this. So meditate while you exercise. No, just kidding. Meditate and exercise.
Running, you know.
Yeah,
that could be considered meditation.
Right.
According to the Mayo Clinic, high-intensity interval training is the most effective way to engage our survival circuitry. All of them, mTOR, AMPK, and the sirtuins. High-intensity interval training kicks them all in, just like caloric restriction.
So this is my specialty. So I really would, I just led a program called Tabata Boot Camp this last Saturday, and I'm gonna have another one in June. You can certainly reach out for me. I talk a lot about HIIT training for active older adults, and HIIT training is very beneficial. We want to coach and cue specifically with progressions and regressions in mind. So for example, if you are doing a burpee for an active, say 30-year-old, perhaps the active 70-year-old doesn't want to go to the floor. They don't have to. They can perhaps do a burpee where it's on a chair or a bench or a BOSU or whatever that is. They don't have to go all the way down. When you're doing HIIT jumping, you don't have to jump off the floor. Many active older adults, just for their ligaments or joints or whatever, they don't want to jump. Jumping is only an option, and the deceleration phase of the jump is more appropriate, then the acceleration phase. So we want to look at whoever we are counseling and coaching when we are doing our HIIT training. Also play around with different timing when you're doing HIIT with the active older adult. 20 seconds, doable for everybody. Perhaps a minute, 2 minutes is maybe a little bit too long, or maybe go on the lactate threshold VO2 max and not jumping into that anaerobic energy system right away, or maybe just limiting that to a smaller time frame. So we want to look at all of that. Also, when you are coaching your clients, you don't want to be coaching them like a 20-year-old, like go, 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 hit it or lose it. But perhaps, hey, let's go a little bit harder than we normally go. Let's feel a little uncomfortable, not too uncomfortable, but uncomfortable and challenged, but not to the point of dizzy. Now, there is one caveat to this. HIIT is very effective for the active older adult. It does create a little bit of dizziness to some, so be careful because of the fall risk. There could be a little dizzy factor involved if you are transitioning from maybe the prone position to the standing position. Be careful. Always keep them more in the standing position, I would say, when you are doing your HIIT training. Keep something close by that they can hold on to, perhaps, or they can even do HIIT sitting in a chair, whatever is most appropriate for your clients and students. But fasting and HIIT will definitely increase your lifespan.
And if you think about it, fasting, what is it? Does that stress your body? Does that put you in a state of hormesis? Yes, it does, because the cells are like, whoa, I don't have any more sugar available, so now I'm gonna pull together and tighten up and hunker down until things get better. It's cleaning itself up. It's just like taking the trash out and the recycle out and cleaning your house. It will increase your life. Fasting and HIIT will definitely increase your lifespan. Fasting and HIIT and a plant-based diet, that is the sweet spot. So fasting, HIIT, whole food, plant-based diet. Let's talk about some chemical mimetics, or drugs that actually can mimic caloric restriction.
Now, let me have a caveat here too, before Bruce jumps into this. Of course, this is out of our scope of practice for us fitness
I'm
professionals.
not prescribing metformin.
So there's no prescription here. What we're showing you, and
this is pure research.
Research based. So this is something to say to your clients when you're discussing this. Hey, have you looked into metformin? Not, I prescribe you metformin. We can't do that. So this is something that you and your clients might want to look into, perhaps if this is of interest to you.
So in the 1920s, it was first used to control blood sugar in type 2 diabetics. Now it's the most widely distributed drug for diabetics on the planet. Even low doses have been shown to increase lifespan in rodents by up to 6%. Metformin has been shown to slow cancer growth in mice. Like rapamycin, metformin mimics calorie restriction. So rapamycin, that suppresses the mTOR pathway, which is what we want. Metformin mimics calorie restrictions and activates AMPK and sirtuins, the two other longevity pathways that we were talking about. So metformin affects all the pathways in a positive longevity increasing manner. It's been so well researched and there's so much excitement about it. There is a targeting and aging with metformin trial that's going on right now. It's pretty big. It's a nationwide 6-year clinical trial. I think they're 3 years into it. They're doing it in research institutions. This is for real. That will engage over 300 individuals, and we'll see how they fare. Those that were on metformin and those that are not. So let's review really quickly the 3 main longevity pathways. They're enzymes that need to be activated or suppressed in our body. mTOR, we want to suppress it. We want to suppress it because it decreases inflammation, and it increases autophagy, and it decreases our metabolism. We don't burn as much. Sirtuin activating compounds and sirtuins. We want to upregulate our sirtuins to increase our mitochondrial function, increase our metabolism of sugar, decrease inflammation, and give our genome homeostasis, balance. And then the insulin-like signaling pathway, and the AMPK pathway is the third. Fasting is a very powerful way in order to activate that pathway.
So to unpack this, stressors, that's what we're talking about.
Stress the body.
We're just talking about stressing the body, not too much, not too little. So the right amount of exercise, the right amount of deprivation of food, and also we didn't
And
talk
that's why
about-
HIIT is so effective,
Yeah.
because think how you're stressing. The individual muscle cells, they use up all the glucose and they can't get any more, so they have to go anaerobic. That's a stress molecule that's going to benefit from that activity and is going to start recycling cell proteins, getting rid of the garbage, and staying young.
And we also know not only HIIT training, but also muscle weightlifting. So when you are holding maybe a little heavier weight, right? So we reach failure at 8 to 12 repetitions. And what that does is that breaks down, that creates that stress on the muscle. So that muscle breaks down, then you in recovery. So you always want to think about, okay, we also, for everyone, not only the active ager, but everyone, the recovery time is so very important. So if you're stressing it out, what does it need to recover and repair? Time, right? So when you are, say, working a bicep, and I'm on my 12th rep and I'm breaking down the muscle fiber, I then need to let go of that weight, put that weight away for a couple days, right? Maybe 3 days, so that muscle then builds back stronger. Same for the anaerobic energy system. When you stress the anaerobic energy system, you don't want to come back and do HIIT the next day, right? So you're going to do HIIT maybe 2 times a week. 2 times a week is absolutely fantastic. And then of course, steady state training is also very good too, because that works the aerobic energy system also.
So we've got those 3 pathways. And what's important here is nobody knows, but they all work together. They're intricately linked. So there's a dynamic between all these pathways. There's signaling going on between all 3 pathways. There's a lot of opportunity for epigenetic noise, that grand piano player to miss a key or forget maybe forget some of the music and start to misplay. What happens when we get really old? That grand piano player, he's not even hitting any of the keys and it doesn't even sound like music anymore. That's probably an analogy to when you die, right? From too much epigenetic noise interrupting the cell signaling. Deviations in that signaling lead to disease.
And I want to say one more thing about HIIT, because that is my specialty. Bruce has prostate cancer, and we went to an integrative oncology center in Chicago called the Block Center. They sat us down for a full hour talking about exercise, and then an hour for nutrition, and an hour for stress reduction and sleep. And it was really phenomenal. But one of the things that they really stressed for Bruce was to do HIIT training. And I thought that was really incredible, because they said that when you put your body through that stress, it enables itself then to deal with other stressors, because it's handled that, so it can handle other ones as well.
So remember, we can tweak these pathways just by fasting, increasing high intensity interval training, moving away from meat and more towards a plant-based diet. And then there are molecules that will actually tweak these pathways that are being explored right now. Rapamycin, we know, is already being used to suppress mTOR, to suppress your immune system if you're getting an organ transplant. That's why mTOR and rapamycin are such a big deal. Metformin, resveratrol, and NA boosters, these are all molecules that are going to get tweaked by doing these things, and you can tweak them with resveratrol. You can do it, although there's been limited research about resveratrol. The NAD boosters like NMN,
Does that mean I get to drink a lot of wine?
Well, sure.
No, that's another lecture.
So molecules can tweak it, but I'm going to use I want to live a long and healthy life. I'm in a battle with cancer. I'm doing it all. Here's some additional learning resources. What is epigenetics? This is Dr. David Sinclair's website, and he has a newsletter that he releases when there's new research. Whatisepigenetics.com, and I would strongly look into this. But again, the takeaway, if he could tell you one thing to do to increase your lifespan and increase your health span, eat less food. How can we do it? It's impossible unless you transition to eating a lower calorie diet with higher volume, and that's the plant-based diet. That's just what it is.
Higher volume. We eat so much food, you don't even know.
So in summary, we got a lot of research. It's happening. So probably stuff has happened today that I don't know about. But we're discovering these survival circuits and new information about them all the time. We have 3 specific longevity pathways, mTOR, sirtuins, and AMPK so far that we know about. Caloric restriction, high-intensity interval training, and a plant-based diet all positively affect these longevity pathways. There are certain molecules that can mimic caloric restriction, resveratrol, metformin, and NMNN.
What do you do, Bruce?
What do I do?
Everybody wants to know. What does Bruce do?
I eat a 100% whole food plant-based diet. I've been doing it for the last 10 years. I transitioned to a whole food plant-based diet since I was diagnosed with cancer. It is the best thing that I have ever done for my health in my entire life. That's all I'm going to say about it. If you can move in this direction and help your clients move in this direction, it is the right thing to do. My exercise, I do about 50, I exercise all day long, but I intermittent exercise all day long. I'll do 50 push-ups, I'll do between 50 and 100 push-ups and 50 to 60 chin-ups every single day, but I spread them out through the day. I run, we have a dog that loves to run, and Mindy and I probably run, not today because it's so freaking hot, but about 1 to 3 miles per day with some intermittent sprints in there. Paddling and swimming a few days a week. As soon as we're done with this presentation, we're going to go for a paddle in this beautiful lake.
Although we saw a huge alligator yesterday.
Don't get eaten by an alligator. I surf as much as I can. Mindy and I are going to Costa Rica in just a couple weeks to do some surfing. That is a very big, that's me surfing in Indonesia, but that's a big, surfing is intense exercise followed by some rest. Intense exercise followed by rest. It's a great hit. My supplementation protocol is I do take 500 milligrams of metformin daily now, based on the science and what's happening. I take a 1/4 gram of NMN daily. I take 500 milligrams of resveratrol twice a week.
In a pill.
In a pill. These are all supplements. My fasting protocol, I'd say I do intermittent fasting, but what I actually do, I would call it periodic fasting. I do a 5-day water-only fast about every 6 to 7 days a week. So when I say water-only,
every 6 to 7 weeks.
I'm sorry, every 6 to 7 weeks.
Days a week.
So I'll go 6 weeks eating. I just finished a 5-day water-only fast a few days ago, and I'll probably do another one in 6 to 7 weeks. Again, plant-based diet and the fast. When I come out of a 5-day water-only fast, I feel 10 years younger. I guarantee you, I feel 10 years younger. And anything you can do to start to move in this direction. Any type of fasting, even if it's intermittent, just slowing down the calories that you get and making sure the calories you get are the right kind.
And when Bruce is doing his fasting, I actually do something called mimicking fasting. I eat about 500 to 600 calories a day, just because I want to have my wits about me so that I can take care of him if anything were to go wrong. But he's done it so many times.
My body knows it's going into a fast. I can feel when that switch flip about the second 2.5 days when I go into ketosis, because I get a little brain fog, and then everything becomes very clear and clearer and clearer and clearer. And then when I eat, I feel I feel like I'm 25. It's fantastic. Is it hard to do? It's hard to get started. Once you get used to it, you're never going to go back. We would
love you to join us in One Day to Wellness. We are a nonprofit. We are a source for good. We travel all over the world speaking about evidence-based nutrition, wellness, and fitness. And we do have a home study. We actually shot this right before COVID hit, thank goodness, because then everything got shut down. So if you use the code PLANTS, you're going to get 50% off of the home study course. So that's going to be $119 for you. So we hope that you take advantage of this, and this is available for you. So PLANTS all in caps on our website, and you will get the whole course. You get 9 CECs. It's over 12 hours of programming.
And there's cooking in there too. So we go through the science, then we talk about all the things you can do to improve your health as far as your own activities. And then we show you how to cook great, delicious, whole food, plant-based food without any oil, which is another story I don't have time to go into.
So here's the deal. The deal is we only have a couple minutes. We don't have any minutes at all. But if there's any pressing questions, Cody, we certainly would love to answer them.
Well, I appreciate all that you packed into this presentation. Man, that was a lot.
There was a lot of pack. I told Bruce, I said, how are you going to get through that in 1 hour?
Well, he did it.
Well, it's a lot of new science.
Yeah, really,
It's
really
new
good
science.
stuff.
Yeah, I think that's what excites Bruce so much is when he finds new science, because there's a lot of
Yeah.
stuff that's been around for a while, but
And it's happening so fast. I mean, and it's just super exciting. And
Yeah.
if you want to live a long, healthy life, I just don't think you can ignore this information.
Yeah.
And we know there was a lot of science in there, but for us, it's really important that when you do advocate something for your students or your clients, that you know the basis for why you are doing what you're doing or asking them to do what they should be doing, and you have some information about that.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right. So
And I would definitely say that this is just one piece of the science, because as we've discussed many times, there's so much science related to lifestyle and longevity, from huge population studies, longitudinal studies, and especially all the work that basically affirms what you're saying is, be active, eat a plant-based diet. I mean, that's really clear. And of course, that's why I now eat a plant-based diet, is because, I was studying this just like you guys. I was studying this, going deep into it, and it was just overwhelming that this was going to be the best way to not only prevent disease, but plant-based diet can actually reverse disease, which is unheard of. And even people in the medical community still don't believe it, even though the evidence has been out there for a long time now. So really, really good stuff. I really appreciate, especially this new perspective from more of a biological, mechanistic, genetic, epigenetic perspective. Really, really interesting stuff. So I really appreciate that. And it's also very interesting how much the high intensity interval training keeps coming back around.
Oh, it does. And really, the only downside is someone might become dizzy. That's the only downside, really, from these different studies that came out, especially the latest study.
But you can do high intensity interval training on the stationary bike is great.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I did have some comments in the chat box from people that said that it was they couldn't download the presentation. The entire presentation is on our website. We'll look into that, and just hang on to your hats if more of you are having that issue. We just had it uploaded, so maybe there was something that went wrong, but we'll definitely look into that and have it up by probably on Monday.
Yes.
Yeah.
And any issues, just reach out to us. I'll send it to you.
And also reach out to us for anything. We are always available to you. This is what we do full time. We live in a fruit and vegetable covered RV.
And I think we spend we're not out preaching for people to do this, but what we are here to do is, if you realize, if you like Cody did, like Mindy and I did, and you accept this science and you want to move in this direction, that's where we're here to help, because we've done it and we've gone through everything. It's a long evolution to get to a healthy plant-based diet. I'm sure Cody can share his experience with you too. It's always evolving, but here's the thing. It's not deprivation. The food is fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. We have made the best food in this RV. We can't travel anywhere like without the RV now, because this is where we cook everything. And we do have a program called Cooking and Coaching. We'll actually be in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, the 3rd week of August, leading our One Day to Wellness program live, and also our Cooking and Coaching program. So you can see that on the website. It'll be up, that will be up next week, but we do that all over the country as well.
Yeah, I definitely encourage you to look into the One Day to Wellness course. Great. Really appreciate your offering that 50% discount. That's incredible. But then also, you guys travel around so much, and to do this live, especially the cooking stuff, would just be awesome. So look on their website, keep up with their schedules. If they come anywhere nearby, you need to go see Bruce and Mindy, because it's going to be fun.
And by the way, Cody, one thing we didn't mention is Mindy and I are launching a food travel show. We've actually shot 5 episodes, because we do travel full time in RV. And although we usually make all of our meals in the RV, we are hitting restaurants that can make a healthy plant-based meal. And we started off in Texas. We've already got 5. It's going to launch in early July. It's called Veggie Ventures.
Veggie Ventures.
And it'll be a YouTube channel, so it'll be on our website as well. So keep an eye out for that. We go to restaurants all over the country. We talk to the owners. We have them prepare a meal for us, and then we eat it, so that you know where to go.
Like in Austin, we went to 6 or 7.
Yeah.
But We also are going to be going to some of like the chain restaurants, because there are a lot of people that live really close to, say, a Cracker Barrel, you know, and so we're going to show you how to order a delicious plant-based meal,
Oil-free.
at a Cracker Barrel or at a Denny's, or, you know, somewhere that you perhaps don't think that you could.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, maybe in your show you can get to Searcy, because we now have a great, completely organic, whole food, plant-based restaurant here in Searcy that's really good.
You know,
So
we're going to come.
you better come. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, guys, we need to wrap up, but thank you so much. Appreciate the information, of course, the enthusiasm and personalities you guys bring. Definitely appreciate that. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Please look into the resources that are all evidence-based resources, which I greatly appreciate. And we hope that we will see you tomorrow for some more summit sessions. So please join us for those. Thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Bye.